Hey guys, it's me, your friendly neighborhood English teacher. I hope you're well. I'm sorry about the issue with last week's videos. I wasn't able to get them to upload while I was in the mountains, but I'm back in Wilmington. I'm here in the Long Wave Yoga office. This is our retail, our back stock with some pretty awesome stuff for next week. So if you're in Wilmington, you should come check it out. But anyway, I want to give you an overview of this week's modules. So we have a lot going on. We're over halfway through, which is pretty awesome. Can you believe we only have like 2.5 weeks until Thanksgiving? So the good news is that means there's only 2.5 weeks till Thanksgiving, and you know, that's awesome because who doesn't love to eat? But that also means we have a ton of stuff to do in a really short amount of time. So this week we have some work with fallacies. And I'll talk about that first. You also have some stuff with your second essay, but I'll post that in a second video. So for the fallacies, what I really want you to pay attention to is the PowerPoint, and then making sure that you understand that fallacies are not necessarily intentional. Yes, a fallacious argument, which is an argument that is convincing but has a flaw, they can be intentional, but often a fallacious argument occurs because the writer has made a mistake, right? And it seems kind of convincing, like, ooh, that's a good way to explain it. But it actually damages the writer's own argument, which is definitely not what we're going for. So please make sure that when you go through these fallacies, you understand that they are not necessarily intentional, because when you are working on your essay 2, which is an argument-based research paper, it's really important for you to make sure that you don't include a fallacious argument in your own writing. It's really common and really easy to do. And we are exposed to fallacies through marketing and advertising and poor writing all the time. So we've kind of embodied them in our culture as a way of convincing, which isn't great because, again, they're not really proper methods of argument. So in your module, you have a PowerPoint that covers the different logical fallacies. It's not the most exciting PowerPoint in the world, I'm sorry. Death by PowerPoint. It happens sometimes. I do the best I can. But it does cover the fallacies and some examples. I would take some time on your own to research these different sorts of fallacious arguments to make sure that you have a firm grasp of them. Then I have some campaign videos from the last election, because what doesn't have flawed arguments more than political campaigns, right? I have campaign videos for all sides of the spectrum, and what I hope you gather from this is that it doesn't really matter who is arguing, what side you're on, if it's right or if it's wrong side, whatever. Everyone's committing the same fallacious arguments. So none of us are void of these sorts of flaws. So I really want you to pay attention to these. I also want to note that when it comes to a logical fallacy, that the PowerPoint does not include every logical fallacy that exists. There are like thousands of different sorts of fallacious arguments out there. However, this PowerPoint covers the most common and the ones that you are probably most likely to see or commit. So just to be aware. So that's that for fallacies. If you have questions, please make sure you ask me, because remember, as an asynchronous online class, I'm under the impression that you know what's going on all the time. And if you don't ask me questions, I don't know that you don't understand something. So please make sure you tell me if you have any questions. So if the fallacious stuff isn't clear, let me know. Let me scroll down here on my screen. Oh, so the next thing that I want for us to look at is structure. Because a really important part of structure, let's start all over again. A really important part of argument is structure. If our structure does not make sense, if it doesn't flow naturally, our reader will struggle a lot. And what we want for the reader to experience is a lot of ease in reading. We talk about this a lot in yoga. Like, I'm sitting in a yoga studio, I'm doing training all weekend. So I'm kind of like stuck in the yoga brain because that's where my head resides. But it's, you know, we talk a lot in yoga, like, this shouldn't be very difficult. We should find ease in these postures. It's the same thing when we're writing. We want our readers to feel at ease. It's not that you can't write intellectually or, you know, write at a sophisticated level, but if our reader is doing more work to figure out what you're saying than you are doing writing, that's a problem, right? So we want this equal balance in our writing of effort and ease. So effort in the sense that, like, hey, this is a sophisticated piece of writing and I have to think about it. But ease in the sense that they can sit down and read it and also enjoy it. So Structure is one way in which we can do that. And I have two methods that I want you to look at right now, the Rogerian structure and classical oration. Classical oration was developed by Aristotle, so it's really old, right? It's kind of cool that we're still using it. But essentially, it's the classical way of structuring a paper. So read through that and let me know if you have any questions about that. It starts with an introduction and it moves through all the way into a conclusion. Within that, there are some other methods that we're not really going to get into right now. Because I am confident that you actually already know how to do them, and talking about it just sort of gives a name to something you already know how to do. But in classical oration, we start with an introduction, we move through a conclusion. But what's really important about this is it's not just like beginning to end. It starts broad and moves to the specific. So if you think about an inverted pyramid, so if it's a triangle, oh, I have an idea, hold on. These are our long wave yoga stickers, our triangle, the triangle's our logo. So let's flip these upside down, and this is the shape of our essay. So the broadest part is your introduction. The next broadest part is still pretty broad, but it's getting more specific. It's your thesis. The next broad part might be outside research. Then it gets more and more narrow until the very, very end when you sort of hit your point home. So your whole paper is shaped like an inverted pyramid. It goes from the broad to the specific. And within your body paragraphs, they also have to move from broad to specific. So your broadest point goes in the first body paragraph. Then you hone in a little bit more in your second body paragraph, and you hone in a little bit more in your third body paragraph, and you keep moving in until you've gotten so specific and you're so convincing, everyone's just like, yeah, I believe you. There's nothing else to do. This paper's amazing, right? So from broad to specific, that's a pretty important part. Each paragraph is broad to specific. You have a broad topic sentence. You broadly talk about the issue. You give some research. You give some more connecting information. And your paragraph gets more and more specific as you move down. So everything in your paper is written from the broad to the specific. If you have any questions about that, please, again, let me know. I'm under the assumption that you understand everything I'm talking about. But if you think about everything being an upside down triangle, that can help a little bit. We move from broad to specific in writing. So just keep that in mind. The next thing that I have on here is the Rogerian structure for you. And I really like this one because it emphasizes building bridges through argument. That yes, we can be persuasive, and yes, we can be convincing, and yes, we can maintain a side and have convictions, but we can do all that while still being a decent human being. And it emphasizes building connection so that you can actually talk to your audience. And we've all been in these situations before where we're trying to talk to someone about, I don't know, politics. This whole thing is, pretty heated right now. We've all had these conversations, I'm sure, in the last year or so, where the person, they're not really listening to you, and they're not trying to say yes, I agree with you here, but I disagree with you there. It's a lot of butting heads. The Rogerian approach asks first and foremost to set the stage with, here's where I agree with you. Here's where we can build connection. Here's where we can build bridges. And then it moves into, but here's where I differ from you. And then what's really nice about it is then it says, but I have these differences and we can all benefit from them because. It's a really beautiful way of arguing, especially right now when tensions are really high. So you'll see that I'm asking you in your essay too to write an argument-based paper that is informative and persuasive, but that also relates to your reader and makes connection with your reader. We don't want to isolate them. We don't want to make them feel like, oh my gosh, everything that they're saying is counter to my beliefs and they're just telling me I'm wrong. We want them to be like, cool, they understand my point of view. We might not totally agree, but this person who wrote this essay, they at least get my side. They're thinking about it. And that's what we're going for. So you have a couple articles to read, and I want you to consider the structure of each article using Rogerian and classical oration. So the directions are on there. Let me know if you have any questions. So the big takeaways, if you had to sum it up into just a few sentences, broad to specific, right? So we write from our most general points to our most specific points. And then the other big takeaway is we want to be convincing writers. We want to have good structure in our writing because we don't want our readers to feel lost in our writing. So we want to have good structure that builds connection. So you have some reading material listed on your module 4. If you have questions, let me know. I cannot emphasize enough that if you do not ask me questions, I'm under the assumption that you fully 100% understand everything in this course. So please let me know. All right, I will post a video about your essay too, and you'll be on your way. And we're soon going to be done with this semester. I think we have 3 more modules after this. It's going pretty fast. Have a great day. Bye.